Let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Jordan Presley. And Jordan Presley writes, as you know, Disney announced that some of the new Disney Plus Star Wars shows, such as Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic shows, would culminate in a crossover event. I was just thinking that maybe this event could revolve around Grand Admiral Thrawn, especially since Ahsoka is still looking for him and he could serve as a multi-show level threat. What are your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes. We all know in the Ahsoka, the Jedi episode of Mandalorian Season 2, there was a big name drop. And that was Ahsoka asking, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? Where is he? Now, one of the things that we know is that Thrawn might just be more than Mara Jade, more than anybody else. Grand Admiral Thrawn is probably the most famous, popular, hyped about Star Wars characters to never have appeared in any of the actual Star Wars movies. It's probably Grand Admiral Thrawn. And I want to propose that in the upcoming shows, Rangers of the New Republic, Mandalorian Season 3, and Ahsoka Tano, I want to propose that Grand Admiral Thrawn may actually be, now I don't know this is not based on any insider information, this is simply me from a speculation point of view, but why I believe we are going to see Grand Admiral Thrawn is ultimately really the Thanos of this upcoming set of shows, that he is going to be the big bad guy threat. Now, just to bring it all into context here, Disney Plus, this comes to us from CBR. Disney Plus is developing 2 new live-action series based on the Star Wars universe, Ahsoka Tano and Rangers of the New Republic, that are, of course, going to be connected with and running at the same time as Mandalorian. The interconnected series will take place in the same time period as The Mandalorian and will culminate in a climactic story event, according to Star Wars head Kathy Kennedy, who announced the series at Disney Investors Day in 2020. While no casting details are announced for Rangers of the New Republic, I think obviously Cara Dune is going to be one of those characters, but we'll find out for sure. No casting details were announced for Rangers of the New Republic. Rosario Dawson will reprise her role as Ahsoka for the series. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are attached as producers for both series. All right, so we know that's the case. All right, we know that these are interconnected, all this kind of stuff. We know that Grand Admiral Thrawn was brought in and mentioned and all that kind of stuff. But Rob, it's not just these things. What we have been seeing and watching, and I believe we got a really good look at this at the Disney Plus Investors Day announcements, is that Disney has really chosen to model this new Star Wars universe after the MCU. I believe they've decided to model it after the MCU. And even like outlets like Variety are now kind of pointing out the fact that Disney is in fact moving this way, that Star Wars is becoming more like the MCU. These post-credit stingers leading into a new spin-off series, everything interconnected. This is the way that Lucasfilm, this is the way, no pun intended, but this is the way that Lucasfilm is going to be proceeding forward with their Star Wars universe now. A giant interconnected, all things happen at the same time, depending on which story we're being told. But particularly in the case of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, Rangers, Ahsoka Tano, all that. Now if you're going to have that type of an interconnected story, Rob, you need a big bad guy. There is no bigger bad guy outside of Vader or the Emperor or what have you that you could have come in and do this other than the great Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now think about this for a second. We saw in Mandalorian, Mr. Kim, Paul Lee, the X-Wing fighter pilot, who, when he was talking to Cara Dune, he said, there's something going on out here, like something deeper. And I don't believe he was just talking about the Moff Gideon stuff either. There's something going on out here. When you think about something along the lines of Rangers of the New Republic, Grand Admiral Thrawn is a terrific foil for a property like that. We already know that Grand Admiral Thrawn is going to be probably the main impetus of the Ahsoka show, since Ahsoka introduced by saying, where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? We know that's her motivation. But even when you look at Mandalorian Season 3, Rob, think about this. Mandalorian Season 3, they're going to be, obviously it's going to have a lot to do with Mandalore. Well, the Empire isn't around anymore. I often wonder during the show when Bo-Katan was saying we need to take back Mandalore. I remember thinking to myself, take it back from who exactly? Is it a remnants of the Empire that are still there? Because the Empire in itself doesn't exist properly anymore. Is it remnants of the Empire? If so, could they be remnants that are still overseen by Grand Admiral Thrawn? That could tie that in. And Grand Admiral Thrawn himself, Rob, becomes the perfect Thanos, if you will, for this corner, talking about the Mandalorian era, this corner of the Star Wars universe. It seems like Admiral Thrawn could be that guy. So I think there's a lot of evidence here, Rob, pointing towards that Disney is moving Lucasfilm into an MCU model, that they are setting up one big bad guy, and I think that's going to be Thrawn, at least for these Mandalorian era shows. Rob, you see all this, you hear all this. What do you think? Do you think Grand Admiral Thrawn could be the big bad guy? Do you think all these shows need one big bad guy? How do you think they're going to handle this?
Well, I mean, look, if you think about it, Grand Admiral Thrawn would be the representative. He would be the figurehead of the entire empire. Since this takes place, or the remnants of the empire, whatever the remnants of the empire are doing, we don't have Darth Vader anymore. We don't have Palpatine anymore. We need a big bad, and a big bad that's in control of the remnants of the empire is formidable indeed. And the New Republic is scrambling around to build a new republic. Boba Fett's probably going to try and solidify some kind of criminal empire. The Mandalorian and Bo-Katan and that ilk is going to want to retake Mandalore. So somehow a big bad, and I think Grand Admiral Thrawn is the perfect foil for all of this, is going to be involved in some way, shape, or form with all of these characters. So I do think, because he's after all trying to reestablish a government. And I think it's a great idea that we're doing this. And for me, Star Wars is based on the old pulps, the old serials, and whether it was Flash Gordon, whether it was Kurosawa samurai movies, I think the interconnected nature of Star Wars is where it's always supposed to have been at. Because if you were a Star Wars fan when there was no movies, there were books, there were comics, whether you were reading Rogue Squadron over here or the Thrawn trilogy or the Han Solo books. I mean, the Star Wars universe is indeed a universe. So just like our universe, like you live in the United States, there's stories happening in New York and LA and Austin and San Francisco. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and yet we're all Americans. So the Star Wars universe is going to have a lot of stuff happening all over the place, and it's going to be really interesting to watch. And by the way, I think this is the exact way to handle this franchise, because you know what the Star Wars universe now has? It has Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and now Robert Rodriguez. And you've got these three guys. Can you imagine what it's like to hang out with those three guys in a production meeting? Like, I swear to God, like I said on the show last week, I am sure, like, if I were them, I would have a room where their assistants have gathered all the Star Wars toys and all the figures that exist in every scale. So you could have gaming miniatures all the way up to the largest toys that you could fit action figures in. And all they would do is like design plot lines and shots, three grown men. What if we did this shot? What if we had this, and setting up with their iPhones, taking pictures, and they were just sending all that to the previs department and go, make this happen. I mean, it's got to be the greatest job on the planet.